think there's a large portion of folks who didn't come up when the internet was really forming that don't necessarily understand all the really cool things that exist on the internet.
A lot of generations sometimes forget the importance of just having a website, having a web presence.
I often find that those hiccups are the opportunities that you have to really impress or build loyalty.
How you are actually presenting to your customers, where you're meeting them and offering them solutions. That is marketing.
Welcome to Impressive Hosting, where we uncover the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. I'm your host, Jesse Friedman. Before we dive in, remember to check out impressive.host. It's where you can comment on episodes, ask follow-up questions, and submit questions for upcoming guests. You'll also find all our links to follow, like, and subscribe wherever you listen. With me today is Eddie Barksdale, Partner Manager at Porkbun. Eddie, thanks so much for joining us today. We have a lot to talk about around the world of registrars and what's happening at Porkbun. But if you could jump in by telling us a little bit about yourself at first, that'd be great.
Hey, Jesse, thanks for having me. So my name is Eddie Barksdale, Partner Manager at Porkbun.com. I've been with Porkbun, a little over 5 years. Started kind of all over the place originally as one of two people first working weekend support. And, I've transitioned kind of around the company. So it's really fun to be here.
Nice. And so you started in support. That's really cool. You were getting to know your customers firsthand. How does that translate into the work you're doing now as a partner manager?
It's really great having that, frontline experience, really understanding kind of what the customer wants. That's more or less the driving force behind Porkbun is trying to address customer needs rather than, I guess, some more superficial or imagined idea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we put a premium on support here at Automatic, and we've talked to a variety of different hosting companies who think about support in different ways. And one of the things that we keep going back to is that support is a great way for you to understand your customer and be a customer first focus. But it's interesting because folks like us who work in partnerships and talk to other hosting companies or other companies in general, they're a partner, but then in a sense they're also a customer, and many times they're also a conduit to even more customers and mutual customers, and that adds a new dynamic. It's really interesting. So listen, you're wearing a shirt that says Porkbun. Below it, you have a big number there. What are you celebrating?
It's the 3 million domains under management. It's quite a nice milestone for us. Yeah, it took us, Porkbun has just crossed over its 10th year this last March. We hit a million domains, I think it was 4 years ago. Took us another two-ish years to hit 2 million and, another 15 months to hit 3.
That's awesome. So yeah, by that count, in about 9 months, you'll be at 4, huh?
Exactly.
Hopefully.
We like this pacing.
So what does it mean when a domain is under management? What does that actually mean?
It means that it's part of, it's under our registrar credentials. So, that's whether it was registered at Porkbun, somebody transferred it over, one way or another, it lives on porkbun.com.
And so when folks are going and purchasing domains, do you have a good understanding of what their intent is, what they're hoping to achieve? And are they still searching for domains independent of hosting, or do they try to package it up and always go with domain and hosting together?
Yeah, we have a pretty wide gamut of customers still. There is definitely a lot of folks that are more on the investment or speculative side. They have an interesting idea. Maybe they're not the one that wants to see it through, but they think it'd be good to grab that name one way or another and hold it for a little bit. Um, we have a large kind of developer freelancer type crew that may have a lot of different ideas for projects and whatnot. Hopes and dreams. They try and get that domain name set up in the hope that they'll eventually develop it. I think more and more people are getting to a state where these hopes and dreams are able to be developed faster. Obviously, AI is a huge proponent for that, as well as just the ease and kind of finer improvements with hosting in general.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that people buy domains for many different reasons. Obviously, you covered a few there. You have a goal in mind, you have a project you want to build, so you buy a domain and you point it at a website. Other times you're protecting a brand, so you're buying a bunch of versions of your domain. Maybe you have an idea, but you don't know what it is yet, but you want to protect it because you got a cool name. It's something that I used to see a lot more often that I don't see as often these days. And I wonder if it's because the younger generation doesn't necessarily understand domains as well. But you can buy a domain and frankly point it at anything you want to. And I don't think that people are taking advantage of that as much as they could be. So there's opportunities, obviously, with like link in bios and stuff like that, where it is technically considered hosting and you tie it to that. But frankly, you could buy a domain and point it to your Instagram account. You could point it to, a friend's website. You could do whatever you wanted to do there. Do you feel like, and maybe you're not so closely knit to this generation, so feel free to say like I'm not in this, but do you feel like the youngest generation that are on the internet now have a good understanding of what it is actually happening on the internet and the tools and the things that they have in front of them to help them kind of build a stronger brand or a presence?
I think not even just the youngest generation, but a lot of generations sometimes forget the importance of just having a website, having a web presence. I mean, how often do you look up like a restaurant in your local town and there's no menu, there's no website. You all you have is the Google Maps listing and what other people are saying about it, which might be a good indication of what that restaurant's quality is. But everyone should have some type of way to you know, get their word out there, whether it is, maybe you are more active on Instagram, maybe you are more active on TikTok. Like you said, you can have your domain name point to it. And with the plethora of new TLDs that are out there, there's a lot of chances that you might get a very descriptive domain name, one that could even match your social media handles in a lot of cases. I've seen that in a couple cases, say something.tech, and that might be, their actual domain name handle is, or their social media handle. It just makes a very nice, smooth approach to, your personal branding.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting. Blue Sky, one of the newer social media platforms out there and really focused on creating like an open environment, allows for you to make your domain your actual username. So my username on or my avatar on Blue Sky is jesse.blog. And I think that's really cool because it gives you a little bit more prominence around a piece of the internet that you own. You're absolutely right that it's not just the youngest generation, but I think there's a large portion of folks who didn't come up when the internet was really forming that don't necessarily understand all the really cool things that exist on the internet. And you run into this situation where these younger folks are um, utilizing what they think is the whole internet, but it really ends up being these like consolidated silos. We look at obviously social media, but then, maybe a lot of their shopping is done on Amazon. All their searching is done on Google. And they tend to think that this is what is the internet. But, when I came up, it was so different. Everyone had their own, like bit of real estate, their own ownership of the internet. And the first thing you do is go buy a domain so that you could claim it as something that somebody could find very easily. When I talk to my daughter, for example, one of the things that we kind of talk about, she's so familiar with this stuff because of where I work and what I do. But it's funny to me that her friends need to be explained that there is, this whole other side of the internet and there are millions of other websites out there and you can carve out your own little ownership of it. And it's interesting that you mentioned these new TLDs. When I was coming up, it was like .com, .org, .gov, and then you'd have to start coming up with some crazy names, adding additional vowels or removing vowels altogether. It was like a common thing. I remember when Dribble came out, they added an extra B, or it was like um, so they could capture that domain. But now there's so many TLDs, and then in fact, there's actually the new auction is coming up, right?
Hmm.
So we're gonna actually see a whole bunch of new TLDs as well. Can you just real quick, just for folks who are listening at home, what is a TLD and what is the future happening that's coming up real soon around the release of new TLDs?
Yeah, so TLD is called a top level domain. It's often sometimes referred to as right of the dot. So that would be .com, .org, .info, .blog. These are kind of more or less what you could imagine as a namespace owned by a wholesaler. So these are all owned by different registries and whatnot. They work with ICANN, the the non-governmental agency that regulates the entire domain industry to have that. So when you go and register a domain, you're registering something underneath one of those top level domains. So for instance, my website, eddiebarksdale.com, that's under .com as the TLD. In 2013, we had the new round of TLDs, and we got all these kind of really descriptive, really brandable, sometimes also focused on geo regions, all these different domain names that are, just provide a whole bunch of new options for people to have something that's shorter, brandable, more memorable. And I believe it's 2027, I think, is when the next round of auctions will be. Folks will get to, try and see try and claim a top level domain that's not out there yet. I think everyone is looking to see who will end up owning .crypto, for instance. And those will come out. Registrars will adopt them, and you'll be able to own something under all those new ones as well.
I think you said 2027, but if I'm not incorrect, I think it might actually be April of next year,
Mm.
2026. Um, and it's interesting to see what will be coming out. And I'm sure that registrars like yourself are going to see an influx of registries right away. But I do like the idea of using these TLDs to be able to get brand names that you might not, otherwise not be able to get, or your own personal name, or like you said, your social media
Mhm.
account would be really interesting. And so we talked a little bit about domains now. So like let's talk about hosting. Porkbun is a unique in the sense that it's a registrar first, but it also provides really superior hosting. And so when we started talking as a company, we talked to you guys a while back, and you were offering WordPress hosting. And then we started talking about WP Cloud and what we can help you to support there. And so you guys have released, an update that basically migrated sites to WP Cloud, and also is like utilizing it for your new WordPress customers. Tell us a little bit about what it's like to be, a registrar first, but then you're trying to provide really excellent hosting at the same time. And Porkbun, I think, is just it's a very unique name, but it's also very synonymous with high quality and really great support. So I'm sure you had to think about that a lot too when you were trying to figure out how to get into hosting as well.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, we wanted to be the registrar that we wanted to work with, and that was really having a close, narrow view of like how do we be the best domain registrar. Hosting for us at that time was kind of, well, we have to have something, and people will need something. They'll want to have the convenience of having it in one place. Our client base at the time, like I said, was maybe more investor focused, developers. They're people who kind of knew what else they wanted for hosting. Since then, as we've gained in popularity, our reputation is kind of pushed out there. We have a newer group of customers coming in that would like, really nice hosting with that. And so we started looking at it. A lot of our hosting products, they were self-hosted things that we were able to spin up pretty easily. Um, but with, bringing on WP Cloud, bringing on other partners, it's allowed us to put something that, other people are the best in the better in this space. So why not partner with them? We keep doing what we do of offering great support, offering great domain names at great prices, and have this just provide something that is more bundled together in an easier way.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, that's the mission that we set out for with WP Cloud was to be able to say, we are providing WordPress as a platform, as a service, and how can we help make companies like yourself, successful in the hosting space, but not have to be the ones, doing all of the work of managing the platform, managing the infrastructure, handling everything around performance and updates and all that stuff. It's nice because you guys have been a really great representation of how WP Cloud can come in and provide an underlying service, but your brand maintains at the top. You guys are the first point of contact to those customers. You own those customers, you maintain that relationship with them, and everything just kind of works seamlessly underneath. How have things gone since the migration? Is kind of a leading question, obviously, but it seems like your customers are quite happy and things have gone, very smoothly.
Yeah, I mean, I know for our support team, it was kind of a nice lift not having as many intricacies of our self-hosted environment, not having to, know it so thoroughly. Having a partner, I mean, you guys obviously understand WordPress at a different level. So having that kind of knowledge, shared knowledge just allows us to push further into things. I know, WordPress continues to still be like one of our best selling hosting add-ons. Um, it's been great.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when you look at these customers that are coming on and buying domains first, what do you think is their thought process around hosting? Do you think that they're already coming in thinking I need WordPress, or are they trying to just buy a domain and then figure out the rest later, and they're going to do all their research later? How much does Porkbun play a role in helping them to make a decision around where to host their site?
Yeah, I mean, where the customer's coming from, I'd say it's 50-50 whether they understand kind of what the next steps are or they already have, everything all planned out, everything ready to go, they're ready to move. For us, we try and be gentle in our approach. We've never been one to, stack 5 pages in front of the cart before they even get to put their payment information like, "Oh, you need this, you need this, you need that, get this deal really quickly." Um, we want people to, take things step at a time. So people will go on Porkbun, they search for a domain, they register that domain. There's kind of no friction there. At that point, then we're suggesting like, hey, so here are some ways to you've got a great domain. Here are some ways to now get that domain up and running, get your site up there. And Cloud WordPress is one of the top things that we feature in that, just because it is something that whether it's something someone else has heard of or they're going to be working with a future developer or their own marketing team. People know WordPress. People understand WordPress. They know how to build for it, code for it, create themes for it. So having that first and center for them after they've done the process of, oh, what domain name do I want? I guess I'll choose this one. Um, it helps smooth that process out from our standpoint.
Yeah, and I think it does something else too. So there's something that's really important that keeps coming up on this podcast, which is that we talk to these hosting companies about the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. And one of the things that we revisit all the time is that hosting companies have a responsibility to WordPress in the sense that the first WordPress experience that a customer has can often be their last. So if a hosting company is not doing a great job of providing WordPress as a service, or if they're bombarding that user experience with add-ons or upsells or different additional services, things like that, the customer experience can be pretty poor. But the thing is, the customer doesn't always necessarily think that their WordPress experience is going to be significantly better somewhere else. So then they end up going to something else completely, and they leave the WordPress ecosystem, which is just bad for everyone in this space. So I think that it's really great that Porkbun is identifying that as an opportunity to not only help your customers, but you're also thinking about it from an ecosystem standpoint and the benefits that exist there from WordPress. Um, but I think it's also really important to think about it from the fact that that domain, as we talked about earlier, can be pointed anywhere, right? So when you buy that domain, you could end up pointing it at a Squarespace or a Shopify or something like that, and then it's outside of the WordPress ecosystem. And our primary focus inside of the WordPress community is to continue to grow our market share because we know the value that comes from building the internet on top of an open platform like WordPress. So I'm curious, like, is this something that comes up for Porkbun, or do you think other registrars are thinking about it? Like, do you think that like they, from a perspective of someone who's selling domains, is it common that the industry is thinking about where that domain ends up, or is it more just about registering those domains and getting as many of them as possible?
It's definitely a concern of where that domain ends up. I mean, we've tried to make it as easy as possible for people to use their domains because if somebody's using their domain, they're going to keep their domain.
Yep.
If it's not providing value for you, why would you keep it? And like we understand that we're not gonna, tell people, oh, you should just hold on to it for fear's sake. Um, like instead, it's no, get some use out of your domain. Again, you could point it towards social media profile. We have a few other hosting options. WordPress is a super easy one again because it's familiar for a lot of devs and marketers in the industry, and we've added other elements onto it to try and make it even easier for someone who maybe doesn't have as much experience with coding. or with the WordPress environment. We have a little AI site builder that helps, get people through it, get at least some content started, right?
Yeah,
Get something that looks like a website rather than just looks like a parking page. And of course, we still think about our power users. They just want to get into WP admin, install Elementor, upload their themes or whatever. So we try and make that easy enough for people to go down whatever branching path they want without putting too many forks in the road per se.
sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And Porkbun sells obviously a variety of TLDs. Real quick question: do you have a favorite TLD right now?
Well, with Chinese New Year coming up, it's gonna be the year of the horse, and dot horse is one.
Dot horse is a
In fact,
TLD. Okay.
it is. It's quite a funny one for us. So
Yeah, I'm curious how much business there is behind horses and the equestrian world there. That's interesting. So with that, I'm always thinking about personalization and the way in which that we can kind of talk to customers about their intent and their motivations. I'm curious, like, do you see the choice that they make around the TLD as a indicator of anything that can help you to, push them in the right direction around hosting?
yeah, I mean, we don't really do anything too active with that. We've done some tests, like for instance, there's a dot bio, and we've done some work with them to try and advertise our link in bio product.
Right.
It makes a pretty easy like pathway for that understanding of that. Same with we've worked a little bit with dot link on that as well. Kind of these easier use cases are a bit simpler to kinda advertise hosting for sometimes.
Yeah. And on that front, like when you do have customers choosing WordPress, obviously with WP Cloud, we're taking care of a lot of the performance and security. But to be honest with you, like the way in which we're selling WP Cloud right now is that that's all baked in because it's table stakes. It's required for us to be able to provide a great experience. Do you think customers are looking for that right now? Like, are they evaluating pork buns specifically on your performance and security, or is it a customer just kind of assumes that that's going to be it's going to work great for them and that they don't need to think about that?
I think customers are very discerning, and the ability to do research one way or another is just so much easier these days. One of the platforms that I personally am active on behalf of the company is on Reddit, and seeing kind of what feedback people have, what questions people have. And people do weigh these decisions very, very carefully. Do I go with my registrar? What platform do I use from there? How do I get this set up in the way that I'm going to be successful on day one rather than successful 9 months out from now? Folks just don't have the time to invest this much thought and energy and love into something and have it struggle because of some small reason that's outside of their control. They want
Right.
something that's gonna perform, and that's something we're watching closely, is just how do we make sure our products are up to snuff? Again, that's kind of why we push more into let's partner with people who are experts rather
Yeah.
than, just rely on our own knowledge.
Right. Makes sense. So, you're monitoring Reddit then. I'm curious, when we talk to, other hosting companies, we talk about the ways in which they're interacting with customers. We had a great conversation with Tom Finelli at Convesio, and he talks about how he brings his customers into Slack. Bluehost Cloud has this um, phone support that takes you right to tier 3 when you're on the Bluehost Cloud product, which is really cool because it's kind of like a bat phone. And obviously, you guys are providing great support, and it's something I think Porkbun is known for. Do you think that a hosting company has a responsibility to do a little bit more outreach? You're mentioning that you're going on to Reddit. Is that more from a marketing perspective, or is it from a support perspective, or both?
The way we approach it, we say that support is marketing. So, depending on how
I love that.
how how you are actually presenting to your customers, where you're meeting them and offering them solutions, that is marketing. That is how you're getting your word out, because word of mouth marketing is still one of the strongest ways that you're gonna get brand recognition, brand loyalty. And, that's kind of how we've always approached things. I mean, our CTO has also always been answering, our X messages and whatnot, and diving in there and seeing what people do and turning or seeing what people are asking for and, turning around new features based on that. It's the easiest way to deliver, as we call it, a mind blowing experience is to actually listen to people where they are, develop for it, improve the product, and, have it done within sometimes a couple hours.
Oh, that's very cool. I think that's one of the greatest things about working with partners or with customers. It's something that came up for me recently, and I think I'll mention this, and then we'll have to take a break and come back for an episode 2 here. But one of the things that I find interesting is when I'm working with partners, obviously you hope for everything to be seamless, everything to work really well, and to not have any kind of hiccups. However, I often find that those hiccups are the opportunities that you have to really impress or build loyalty in a partnership or through a customer, because it's how you solve those problems. It's how you address something that's going to come up. Obviously, we can't, exist in a world of perfection, right? And there's always going to be something that's going to arrive. But it's taking that as an opportunity to delight and really show people that you care, that can help to ensure, a really positive experience. And I think when you translate that to hosting, what you're saying about going out and meeting people where they are is brilliant. I think that's fantastic, because I think the tendency that people have is that they are a little bit more reserved when they have to go to support. They don't want to go to support. They like it has to be a threshold that has to break for them to be willing to reach out to support. They don't always have faith that they're going to get the answers they need right away. So sometimes going to Reddit or to social media is a faster way to get community level support, maybe a little bit more honest support. But it's really cool that y'all are meeting your customers there. I think that's great.
Yeah, I definitely think like it's more important our response to when something is, difficult or going wrong than, whether or not we had it perfect the first time. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. All right. So we're going to take a break here and wrap up episode 1. But Eddie, you and I are having such a great conversation. I want to have round 2 shortly after this. So I'll see you again shortly.
awesome.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Impressive Hosting, where we uncover the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. Do you have a follow-up question for today's guest, thought or comment on anything we talked about, a future guest suggestion, a hosting horror story? What do you think makes great WordPress hosting? All your comments shape this show. Drop them on impressive.host. We also appreciate you following us on social media and subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. Finally, do check out our list of open source projects that need support at impressive.host. Whether it's code, community, or cache, you can make a difference. See you next time.